fans, we are ready for the main event of the evening.
Should be at the kitchen.
This fight in the welterweight division is scheduled for 7 rounds of boxing. Introducing first, the blue corner, Leonel Jimenez.
Leonel Jimenez started out in Eagle Pass, Texas, now currently fighting out of Moline, Illinois. Record is 5-23-1 with 4 knockouts. He's 30 years old. Now, the first thing that really jumps out about his record there, 5 wins, 23 losses. That's obviously significant. However, he's weighed in over the junior middleweight limit several times. He seems to be a bigger guy overall than Steve Villalobos. How much is weight going to be a factor, Mr. 2-pound Forbes?
It could be a big factor. But with a guy that's used to spar and basically training with a lot of bigger guys and known to be a knockout puncher. I mean, I gave the kid a nickname, KO King, Steven Villalobos. I don't know how much weight will play a factor, but we will definitely find out.
It's not as if you can exactly erase those 23 wins from Leonel Jimenez's record. However, if you were to just use your imagination and do just that, you have 5 wins and 4 knockouts. And then you look at Steve Villalobos, 9 wins, 8 knockouts. At least on paper, both of these guys can punch.
It does look that way, and this is going to be a good test to see how Villalobos deals with a guy that's heavier in weight than he is. I don't know if he's ever faced a guy so heavy.
Now, the judges aren't going by this criteria, but I can already tell you that Steve Villalobos wins the tattoo war.
He does.
Of course, being that looks like 760, which is just north of my hometown, San Diego. So it looks like Steve Villalobos is repping the 760, which is North County, San Diego, and a couple other areas. Coachella, too, actually, for that matter, another famous boxing mecca.
He seems world-traveled.
All right, boxing fans, this is your main event of the evening. This fight scheduled for 7 rounds of boxing in the welterweight division.
You got to take care of it, it's okay.
Introducing first, representing Quad Cities and fighting out of the blue corner. He wears the black trunks with white trim. He holds a professional record of 5 wins with 23 losses, 1 no contest. All 5 of his wins have come by way of knockout. He stands 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighed in at 152 pounds even. Fighting out of East Moline, Illinois, introducing Leonel Jimenez.
Leonel Jimenez, who says he fights for
And
the
now,
adrenaline,
introducing
Steve.
his opponent, representing Hands of Gold Boxing Gym and fighting out of the red corner. He's wearing the black trunks, trimmed in silver and red. He holds an undefeated professional record of 9 wins with no losses and 1 no contest. 8 of his 9 wins have come by way of knockout. He stands 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed in at 149.2 pounds. He's a 2016 Regional Gold Gloves Champion, fighting out of Burlington, Washington. Introducing Steven Hands of Gold Villalobos.
They call Steve Villalobos Manos de Oro, or Hands of Gold. It's a bit of a cry from Manos de Piedra, but not too far from it.
Yeah. I've been hearing about Steven Villalobos for a while, so now we get to see him live and in action. So I'm excited to see.
Now, both of these fighters came in a little bit heavier than they were supposed to for this matchup and wound up having to come to an agreement on a catch weight. What that means, we'll just have to see. But they start out jabbing, looking like they're trying to figure out the distance and see who can get one in there first.
As Villalobos is using his jab, trying to find his range.
you could already tell, as I mentioned earlier, just by the footwork, that Leonel Jimenez kind of skipping about, a little bit sloppier with his footwork. Steve Villalobos just looks far sharper, far more poised, like he's been here at this level before, whereas Jimenez, perhaps not.
Yeah, Villalobos looks like he's been here before, like he as he switches southpaw.
There you go.
He seems to know what he's doing and kind of look like he's working on a few different things.
Now, of course, when a previous fighter had switched southpaw, we had said that that's often a bad idea. However, what that can also mean sometimes is that when a fighter switches to or from southpaw, it can mean that they're very comfortable. Perhaps that's what this means for Steve Villalobos. He just doesn't really see much of a threat right now.
It seems like he's one of those guys that does this in the gym, and he probably did that throughout his amateur career. Go lefty, righty, righty, lefty. Because he seemed really comfortable when he does do it.
And as the cameras will also pick up, at times when he lands, he fights with a grin on his face, almost as if he really enjoys what he's doing in there. At 9-0-1, we sure hope so.
It would be quite fun for us if he enjoys what he's doing, and it definitely looks that way.
We've already had the first 4 fights were really exciting tonight. We'll see what kind of fight Leonel Jimenez can put up tonight against Steve Villalobos. Thus far, Villalobos using his jab. Jimenez hasn't really had much for him offensively.
He's keeping the range. It appears that Jimenez is not really trying to get in close. He's more trying to keep his distance. He could be hoping to see what happens after a few rounds with Villalobos. But a guy like that, you got to be careful at all times because he can punch.
Well, we already saw one fight tonight, Blaiwa Eagle Pipe, and with a controversial upset. James Ballard on the last card in December, Fight Night 1, was upset. We'll see if Leonel Jimenez can pull off the upset against Steve Villalobos. Although after round 1, it doesn't really look like that is going to be the case.
And I would agree with you, Patrick. It looked like he was just trying to get through the round and kind of see what was in front.
Attention boxing fans, if you are the owner of a Burgundy Chrysler Oregon Plate
Steve Villalobos
CMA,
neglecting to sit in his corner between rounds, getting instruction, looks very comfortable. On the other hand, Leonel Jimenez already looks pretty tired. On one hand, it can be good for a fighter to go into a fight nice and worked up with a sweat. On the other hand, he looks like he's already kind of a little bit spent.
He does. Breathing hard after the first round is, that's kind of a sign of maybe not in the best shape, but it remains to be seen. I've seen one guy do that, and that was way back against Larry Holmes, and that was Michael Spinks, where he had incorporated the interval running, with nobody had ever heard of it, and he could breathe hard between rounds, but he was able to let those hands go in a fight.
Well, it's certainly different when a guy's breathing really hard between rounds after he just threw 80, 90, 100 punches and a guy just threw 30 or something like that. That's a pretty big difference. But nonetheless, Leonel Jimenez said that he was an all-state quarterback. He has a football background. And as I said earlier, he fights for the adrenaline of it. He says physical strength is his strong point, but he hasn't really got much to show it tonight. Steve Villalobos has kept him at the end of his jab and the end of most of his punches.
And he has. And Villalobos looks to be very poised and patient. I would have expected maybe with the knockout streak and the knockout record that he would be pressing the action a little bit more. But he's actually more of a technical guy, and we'll see how his power is. But he's taking his time. He's getting the rounds in. He looks to be getting some work, loosening up. Very poised.
Unorthodox tactics there from Leonel Jimenez, who's stomping his feet, waving his arms, perhaps trying to draw Steve Villalobos out of his comfort zone or trying to get him to make a mistake with those tactics. But the thing is, you got to do something offensively. in order to get something done here. And he's just not been able to pull the trigger. And when he has, he doesn't have enough firepower.
Yeah, he's not throwing many punches. He's in a very tight defense, which he's looking like he just kind of came to kind of get through the rounds, and hopefully he'll start to pick it up.
Whereas weight might have been seen as Jimenez's advantage here, it's kind of looking like there's a bit of an extra around his midsection, and that is not to his advantage. Again, he's looking tired, just not throwing quite enough to get something done.
He's not, and Villalobos would be good for him to kind of pick up that pace and really attack the body with a guy that didn't make the weight and is a lot heavier. You want to go to that body, which he is now. He's starting to go to that body from the southpaw stance, and as he switches back to orthodox position.
And also a guy who's moving around quite a bit on him. Perhaps not intelligently or effectively moving, but nonetheless he's moving. And a way to get that to stop is to go to the body.
That's right. See, Villalobos look like he's getting to a rhythm. He's starting to pressure him a bit. He's had enough with the jabbing and kind of waiting. Looks like he's trying to pick it up.
Again, we're scheduled for an unorthodox amount of rounds here in the 7th round. Here's the end of this first round. Or I'm sorry, the 2nd round. We'll have to see how many rounds this gets extended to, but Steve Villalobos looking very comfortable here at the end of the 2nd round.
As he smiles, coming back to the ring, and coming back to the corner.
We have that maroon Chrysler, organized by 082
Again, just wanted to say a special thanks to our people out here supporting. We got Golden Valley Brewery, McConnell's Boxing Academy, Pack Boxing, Knockout Taco, Bobby P Media. Very much appreciated. Great show tonight. Great first 4 fights. And we're seeing what prospect Steve Villalobos can do here with Leonel Jimenez tonight in the main event.
Absolutely, a great night. Bobby P Media, so many great, Golden Valley Brewery helping us out, McConnell's Boxing. I mean, just everybody coming together here in the Northwest and putting together a good show. I'm really proud to be a part of it and be sitting next to you, Patrick.
Always an honor, sir. And Leonel Jimenez comes marching out of his corner, stomping his feet around the ring. Tough to know what exactly that means because he's tired. But Steve Villalobos, he doesn't look like he's messing around anymore here in round 3.
He doesn't. He looks like he's starting to pick it up. Like even his facial expression changed from the smile to okay, let's get down to business. Let me ramp this thing up. He must have got a talking to in the corner saying, let's pick this thing up.
He's looking through his eyebrows a little bit more like he means business. Back to southpaw for Steve Villalobos while he's on the attack here, fending off some weird movement from Jimenez. Villalobos looks, again, somewhat measured here in round 3, but looking for something to help him open up.
Good jab from Villalobos. He needs to really press the gas, go to the body head, to really see what Jimenez has.
Believe it or not, a good couple of jabs from Leonel Jimenez. Not much following up, though, and Steve Villalobos just doesn't look bothered by it one bit.
Looks like Villalobos wants Jimenez to punch a lot more so he can hit him with a counter shot.
Right, he's waiting for him to open up so he can work something off of that. But Jimenez just isn't cooperating, and Villalobos just kind of taking his time as a result.
And with Jimenez not doing much work, Villalobos will have to force the action like he did now with a good body shot and continue to press the action and make Jimenez work.
But sometimes that means you have to take risks. You got to spend money to make money, you know?
That's right.
good right hand, right hook, left hand from a southpaw, Steve Villalobos there. Another good right hook. If he can put 3 or 4 of these punches together and land them, that might be it for the night.
Nice little feint by Steven.
He's trying to feint.
He has to work good overhand right.
Trying to feint Leonel Jimenez out of position, and Jimenez just really dropping his offensive output in the last half of this round here.
Jimenez almost a little apprehensive to punch when there's a low end in action.
Then Jimenez walks back to his corner with his mouthpiece sticking out of his mouth, staring into the crowd as if he's perhaps a little disappointed. And again, Steve Villalobos refusing to sit.
Academy, Pack Boxing, Knockout Taco, Bobby P. Media, and Pat O'Connor. Make sure you head to the website, 2poundforce.com. That's the number 2.
That ice pack stuck to Jimenez's chest in his corner. He could really use it. It's been sweaty since just moments into the first round. Really working hard, though he could stand to put a little more offense out there because he has firmly lost all of these rounds.
Yes, he'll definitely have to even make a dent in this fight. He needs to let his hands go. And there comes a point in a match where, you know, you just gotta kind of throw it all out there, and he needs to make a stand.
But one way or another, there definitely comes a point in a fight where it seems as though a fighter has to realize either I do something or this is just how it's going to go. The road is already laid down and we're traveling down it. That's kind of what it looks like now. It's looking like he's going to wear down and Steve Villalobos is either going to stop him or take a very comfortable decision. And that's really at least part of it, depending on Leonel Jimenez, whether or not he wants to work, whether or not he wants to go out on his shield, as it were, or just coast to a decision loss.
It does look that way, Patrick, where he's getting the work in, getting the rounds in. He can't get Jimenez to open up to land one of those vicious shots. And so he's going to take what he has, and that's use his range, use his jab, throw some body shots, throw some uppercuts, hopefully that he can make Jimenez open up.
About 10 seconds there was a very telling sequence because Steve Villalobos actually backed to the ropes, and Leonel Jimenez used actually a nice little maneuver to kind of feint him into position, but then as soon as Villalobos moved his hand, he did nothing. It's almost as if he's saying, nope, you got the better of me. Yeah. You got it.
And Villalobos is trying a tactic to lure Jimenez in, backing up, pulling back with his hands down, hoping that Jimenez will just attack.
Jimenez seems so intimidated that he's not even, perhaps he's just too intelligent to fall for that trap, but it sure seems more like intimidated than intelligent, to be honest.
It does. And I don't know if Villalobos has hit Jimenez with a very good headshot. I know he's hit him with some really good body shots, but a headshot to shake him up. And it seems like Jimenez is a little bit nervous about stepping into maybe a good power shot, but so far he hasn't been hit with anything big to the head.
And of course, right on cue, Steve Villalobos lands a straight left hand from the southpaw stance, but it actually didn't seem to shake Jimenez up much at all. So what does that mean for these guys are punchers theory going into this fight?
Yeah, it's not looking that way right now, but a good puncher and a smart tactical guy can lure a guy to sleep. I used to watch the old Black Mamba, Roger Mayweather, do that so many times. He would use that quick jab and kind of take a little power off the shots to get you comfortable, and then boom, big right hand.
Well, the funny thing about matching puncher against puncher, too, is that sometimes it's like one puncher realizes that the other one can punch and back and forth, and so it winds up being a bit of a technical contest rather than a contest of power. And though it's obviously one-sided, that is kind of what we have here.
Villalobos getting his momentum going. He's starting to pick it up a bit. I think he's kind of had enough. I think he's had a little bit of enough with the posturing of Jimenez, and I think Villalobos wants to pick it up. It's appearing that way.
And finally, Steve Villalobos sits after the 4th round. He hadn't been doing that in the previous between round segments there. But Leonel Jimenez, I'll tell you, again, kind of just staring off as he's getting instructions from his corner, whatever they are. And 4th we go. So what is going through the mind of a guy like Jimenez right now? After 4 rounds, he's got 3 rounds left. If he's lost the first 4, that means he needs a knockout to win. What's going through a fighter's mind in that moment?
He could possibly be thinking, you know what, I'm just going to make it through and be able to tell a story that I went the distance with a big puncher. You would hope that's not what he's thinking, but a lot of times guys like that get hit with good, hard, solid shots, they kind of had a long career, kind of lost some decisions, and even though some fights where they felt they won, they kind of go into kind of a protective mode and just say, you know what, I'm going to get through and I'm going to live off the fame of saying, hey, I went the distance. But he just landed a good right hand just now.
Actually made Steve Villalobos make a bit of a face after it landed, for whatever that's worth. But here we have Leonel Jimenez just kind of covering up now, not following up on a couple of right hands that he landed. His left eye is looking like it's a little marked up, and he's not really doing much but posturing right here. Trying to time a right hand is Leonel Jimenez, but falling far short as Steve Villalobos has just got matters well in hand with his feet and sharper punching.
Yeah, Villalobos is doing what he does. He's able to work on his boxing skills also. He's showing some head movement, jabbing up, jabbing down, getting to the body, switching up with the southpaw.
Well, at only 9-0-1, look, Steve Villalobos, only 2 of his wins in his career have been against fighters with winning records. If nothing else, perhaps we can look at this as he needs the rounds. He needs the experience.
That's what it's looking like, Patrick, that he's getting the experience, he's working on his craft, and hopefully he'll be able to take that step up and fight some guys that will come to fight.
Assuming he does go on to win this fight, which is looking very likely here, do you put him with the Nicholas Jeffersons, the Marquise Westons, the Pat Fergusons, these guys coming up in the Pacific Northwest scene?
Yeah, I would think you have to, being that he's a puncher, and being that he seems like to love fighting, and right now he's starting to pick it up a bit. You gotta put him up there with those guys, but you want to see him in there with a guy that is gonna really try to fight back, as he just got hit with a good right hand right there. You kind of want to see him develop, but they're doing the right thing by matching him with different guys. They help him build up his confidence, his punching power, and his boxing skill.
You know, it's funny because you pointed it out, but Steve Villalobos landed a nice southpaw left hand with Jimenez against the ropes, kind of made him look worried, and then Jimenez strikes back out with a right hand that snapped Villalobos' head back. Didn't really seem to do much damage, but nonetheless, it let him know, hey, I'm here.
It did. And now he's getting the rounds in. It's almost as if they're preparing him for some type of surge where they want to keep him busy, keep him active, keep him moving, and matching him with different opponents, guys with a little bit more experience, and see how he deals with it.
Look, it's easy to get carried away watching a guy like Vasily Lomachenko, who had that many amateur fights, Steve. And the guy had hundreds of amateur fights, a ton of experience on the world-class level, even though it was amateur. So it's much easier for a guy on that level to go into a world title fight in a second, third fight. Otherwise, the vast majority of fighters, they need that experience.
They do. There's not many Lomachenkos out there, and you know, most fighters, you see, they take a route like this. They kind of build themselves up. They do a little bit more rounds. They want to see how their stamina is going to hold up, their boxing ability. They're not in with a guy that can really hurt them. I mean, anything can happen in a fight, but you kind of match to work on your skills.
Here we go with Steve Villalobos dominating Leonel Jimenez here at the Jackson Armory in North Portland. 2-pound sports and entertainment fight night 2. Steve Villalobos looking like the true Pacific Northwest prospect that he is. Lots of potential here tonight, even if he is having to show it against a guy who perhaps isn't the greatest fighter around. But he's, again, not cooperating. Leonel Jimenez is in there letting him know that I'm not going anywhere. I might not be winning, but I'm not going to go anywhere. You're going to have to work if you're going to get me out of here.
Yeah, he's putting some good shots together. He's showboating a bit, hoping that Jimenez can fire back. But he's working on his range, his punching power, is letting some really good body shots. And what I got to say about Jimenez, he's pretty tough because he's taking some solid body shots. And now he's starting to get hit clean to the head.
The last 2 rounds, he's definitely taken more headshots. We'll have to see what that means for Jimenez. But at the very least, he's come into this fight in decent shape. Even if he was huffing and puffing in the first round, he's still fighting.
He is, and he actually surprised me being able to be this far in the fight. And he's still in there. He just, I would love to see him be a little bit more active.
After so much effort being shown in the first 4 fights of this Fight Night 2 card here tonight at the Jackson Armory, it would be nice to see, just a little bit more effort from Jimenez to lash out and, hey, protect that 5-23 record.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he's kind of just covering up on the ropes right here.
He is. He must be feeling some really good power with those body shots. You could kind of see his face when he gets hit with them. He clenches his gloves a little bit tighter. They're tight up around his face and ribs. When Villalobos starts to attack, you can see him kind of tighten up.
Let me ask you a more technical question. If a guy like Villalobos right now is feeling comfortable putting his hands down his waist, if a guy's like that as a puncher, does that seem to affect his power at all if he's changing where he's placing his hands for his guard?
I think it does. It makes him more of a... You get this mindset...
Like a winging puncher, kind of?
Yeah, you get this mindset to where, you know what, this guy, I'm hitting him with clean, hard shots. He's not really going anywhere. Let me kind of mix up my attack. I'll use a little bit more speed, and maybe that can befuddle him, and I can really land a clean shot. So he's doing everything he can to kind of get Jimenez to kind of follow him so he can land a good power shot.
Now, Steve Villalobos kind of lampooning Jimenez at the end of round 6 there, trying to get him to make some sort of mistake, make him mad, something so that he can capitalize offensively. But here we are, coming at the end of this fight. What's going to happen?
I would say Villalobos is pulling a good bluff. He's trying to get Jimenez to kind of follow him to the ropes. Jimenez is having none of it. He says, I know what you can do. I'm not going to fall for that.
If nothing else, Jimenez is saying, no tricks here. I'm going 7 rounds. You ain't getting me out of here. And I'm going to make it difficult for you and make you not look that good.
And what it does is it puts Jimenez's name right there saying, hey, I went the distance with this guy. And I think he has, if he can last this full distance, he'll have a somewhat of a moral victory, I would say. Kind of where, you know what, I went the distance with a big puncher, a guy that's known for knocking guys out. And for Villalobos, he shouldn't take it with any grain of salt. Hey, it's part of boxing. You're gonna fight different guys that you can't really take out. I mean, he looks good. He's doing what he needs to do. He's like a guy taking his lunch pail to work. You know, going to work and doing what he has to do.
That's something that a lot of us seem to forget about boxing, is that there are journeymen. There are the quote-unquote tomato cans. There are lower-level guys. Boxing is comprised of those as well, not just world class, not just guys fighting for secondary belts, but all levels of fighters. This is boxing. And similarly to Kevin Davila in our opener there against Jesse Barrich, perhaps Jimenez can kind of point to Steve Villalobos and say, just as Davila did, and he said that he went 5 rounds against Victor Morales Jr., perhaps in a couple months, Leonel Jimenez is going to be looking back and saying, hey, I went 7 rounds with Steve Villalobos. He was average. His punching power wasn't all that.
Yeah, I could see that happen playing out, just as you said. And what it does show too, that guys are being matched on the 2-pound sports and entertainment with pretty evenly. I mean, there's you could see like a big gap in skills, but one of our biggest things is safety. We don't want guys in here getting blown out, and what we see tonight is a guy that's a skilled guy, young guy up in his career, another guy who's been around. He's had a lot of experience. He's had, most of those fights didn't go his way, but he's been able to protect himself and been safe. And there are those quote-unquote guys that can help you in your career that they're not going to win, but they do show up, and he's actually trying right now to score some points.
You really can't ask for a whole lot more than that. It's not like too many people came into this fight expecting Leonel Jimenez to blast out Steve Villalobos or to totally outclass him or anything like that. He is only working with what he's got, and you can't ask anything more of a fighter. The only thing we could ask for, like we said earlier, is perhaps a little bit more effort. But you know what effort might do against a guy like Steve Villalobos is get him knocked out.
This is where the case where you say he gets an E for effort, which, it seems like he would be pleased with going the distance as Villalobos is trying to end it, but the bell is going to come very soon.
Some of the hardest shots that Steve Villalobos landed were in the last 30 seconds or so of that round 7, but there we have it. There is the end of that fight, and Steve Villalobos should be going forward at 10-0 after that fight. Continuing forward is one of the premier prospects in the Pacific Northwest, no question.
Yeah, good solid win for Steven Villalobos. He did what he had to do. Jimenez doesn't have to hold his head down. He did what he could do against a guy that, is on the track of moving up and looking to get better. Good solid night of boxing tonight, I must say.
A very solid night of boxing. You hit the nail on the head just a moment ago when you said that we're looking for even matchups. We're looking for fights where nobody's getting blown out, nobody's getting the heck beaten out of them or anything like that. We're looking for guys putting forth a serious effort, guys ready to fight.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Patrick. I mean, want to see guys that can defend themselves. I mean, if a guy doesn't get blown out, we want it to be a shock, as everybody else does.
Looking at the fighters, pulling off their gloves, getting ready for this final decision, which should be for Steve Villalobos, but...
Well, my partner is Christina Lundsman, making her way into the ring over in Villalobos' corner. Her and I, we are partners in Steve in this 2-pound sports and entertainment. She does a lot of work and definitely couldn't do it without her. She is tireless and a great partner.
Without question, Christina was a big part of the glue holding this place together tonight and making sure this card came together the way it was supposed to.
Absolutely.
That said, here's Garrett Furteg, the announcer, with the official decision.
All right, boxing fans, after 7 rounds of boxing, in your main event, we go to the judges for a decision. All 3 judges score the contest 70-63 for your winner by unanimous decision, Steven Hands of Gold Villalobos.
And there you have it, a shutout for Steve Villalobos. All 7 rounds from all 3 judges. He was made to work, but he got the big win this evening. And again, he moves forward as one of the premier prospects in the Pacific Northwest. Again, a great night. 2-pound sports and entertainment, Fight Night 2. Whole lot of fun. You put it together tonight. Everybody who paid attention, we'd really love it if you went to 2poundsports.com. That's the number 2. Go to Facebook, 2-pound sports and entertainment. And if you're on Instagram, 2 Pound Sports and Entertainment, baby.
That's it. 2 Pound Sports and Entertainment, 2poundsports.com, and there you have it. Also, you got to listen to Patrick, as he has a podcast and it's great. He talks boxing historian. You boxing fans, you guys tune in.
Very much appreciated, but do me a favor. Follow Steve on Twitter at 2 Pound Forbes. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.